only reason we didn't continue homeschooling in high school is so you're getting all of the background of me. So
Yeah.
my family was missionaries. We were missionaries in Uganda. And so my family went there to build an orphanage where my dad, he was an electrical engineer, he was there to do the construction. And then my mom was a biochemist, but a fantastic teacher. And so she went there to help with the school. And we ended up we started with four little boys who were two, but we ended up with hundreds of children that kind of, well, thousands at this point that have passed through. And so when we were in high school, we were over there. And so we were out in the middle of nowhere in the village. And so it made sense we wanted a little bit more social interaction. So I went to a little private school there where I graduated with four other girls. So it was
Oh, wow.
essentially homeschooling. But
Yeah.
no, it was such a formative experience in my own life to be homeschooled. And I've loved it for my girls because there's just such a focus on what they're interested in
Yes.
learning. And I feel like the most important thing that needs to come out of education is a
Bye
lifelong,
bye. Thank you.
like, love of learning. And if
Yes.
they come out of school hating learning or feeling burned out, then we've done a disservice.
Oh my gosh.
I was just,
You
yeah, I was just talking to
so
my girls the other day about that because I'm like, if you are hating learning new things, then we're not doing things right. Like, really, you should be learning like how to learn, and then you can apply that to anything in your life. And so it's been such a blessing to have them be able to do that. My mom's fantastic, and so it was just really a blessing when she offered to do that for us because she was like, it was almost like we were doing her a favor. She's like, I'd really love now that I'm
oh,
retired to do that. And we're like, when can you come? We will find you a house immediately. And then
oh
when we moved to Utah, she came with us, and actually she's not too far from me right now in the other room. She lives down in our basement, has her own little her level and next to the homeschool room.
oh my, you guys give some hearts in the comments for Lisa because Lisa, our team has just fallen more in love with you. I was like, we have to move our team call up an hour earlier because they're going to a Bible study. And everyone's like, oh, we're already fans, but they're going to a Bible study. That's even better. And now
Oh yeah, no, you're getting to learn all the things.
most of the moms on our call are homeschooling moms. And
Oh, I love that.
I was with my sister Vanessa on the call. We were first generation homeschoolers. And so that was the generation for us at least that they thought you were going to grow a third eye or you would never like socialize or something was going to go terribly wrong with you. And um it's the opposite. I think we would just really thrive and we're lifelong
Agreed.
learners and that's why we like to like have you on the call tonight and just learn more.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I remember because same kind of generation. I remember hearing the same things like they're never going to have friends, they're going to be socially awkward and never be able to present themselves well. And then I went to college and like because I loved learning, because I knew how I needed best to learn, because I'd had time to learn that, it made college so much easier. And I picked very difficult majors with biology and chemistry, but I already knew what worked best for me because my mom had taken the time to nurture that in me so that even when the subjects were really hard, I had good systems put in place to be able to thrive. And then the ability to have relationships. I mean, I think because I wasn't in school all day long, I had the more ability to do other things. So we were in sports and choir and all the things. So I actually grew up around more people and really was able to kind of cultivate those relationships. And I think that's ultimately, besides a love of science and chemistry and biology, it was what brought me into this industry because it's the people side of it. I mean,
Yes.
there's so many places where I could do this exact same job and make products, but there's only one industry where you get to have relationships with people, and that's this industry. And that's why I've loved it for so long. It's now been, I had never done it. Let's see, now it's been, oh goodness, I've been here almost 9 years, so almost 9 years in this industry. Before then, I had never done it. And now that I've done it, I could never look away just because
Oh,
being able to build the relationships and have the conversations and get to learn about people and hear their experiences is priceless.
oh my gosh. Well, if you guys don't know the behind, it's always fun to hear the behind the scenes. But before I went on stage at our last convention, Lisa was there like, you got this. You can do this, girl.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it's just such a great environment where it's just everyone encouraging each other.
And you killed it too. You were awesome.
Oh, thank
I
you.
was sitting back there and I'm like, yes, she's doing all the things. I mean, like the minute you got up there, I always love when people go out there and you can just tell that they're able to be themselves and their real personalities coming out. It doesn't have to be the sparkliest, it doesn't have to be the loudest, but as
Yes.
long as you can tell it's them, then that's what's really powerful. And it ended up being really powerful because you could tell it was you coming out on stage
Yes.
versus like trying to pretend to be someone else, which I absolutely love because I think that allows people to see themselves in you and be able to connect. Once again, something that's so powerful about this industry.
I love that. Let's chalk it up to homeschooling, okay?
Yes, fantastic parents.
It is. And I was homeschooled first through 12. And just as a segue, because I didn't have a lot of friends, when I went out into the work field, I would go into work every day and be like, "Hi Mary, hi Sue, hi Beth." I was like Mr. Rogers on steroids. I love my job. And I'm still like that to this day. Oh
Oh,
my,
that's so much fun.
I love that about you. Um, Lisa, I would just love to turn it over to you. And I know we can take this conversation a number of different ways,
Yeah.
but I would love to start with the Clean Promise because we have a lot of crunchy people who are interested in the products, and they have questions about things like natural flavors, maltodextrin. I know we're changing the Axio ingredients, and I know we have that beautiful Clean Promise. So I thought that would be a great place to start. And then honestly, it can go anywhere. And if you guys have pressing questions or things that
Yeah.
excite you,
Conversational.
yes, yeah, put them in the comments, and we'll make sure that we ask those questions tonight.
Yeah, I can go ahead and walk through it. Yeah. I figured we could just keep this super casual. I was like, no slides. We'll just talk through. And then as the questions arise, please just put them in the chat and we'll address them. And let's just make this a conversation. But talking about how we choose ingredients, it's a big part of how we build formulas. And so, not that long ago, I think it was April of 2025, we kind of walked through what we call the 6 A's of product development. The first one was like assessing the trends, so knowing what was on trend as far as consumers and also science and making sure that that's incorporated into our product, assembling the formula, so being very meticulous in testing every single ingredient, ensuring we understood what each ingredient did on its own and then what it did in combination because it's very important how ingredients are put together. The ratios matter and the types of ingredients you're choosing. And then there's affirming efficacy, so making sure it works. And then there's the quality, and that's where a lot of this comes in. But even the product promise comes in with the assembling of the formula. So when we are choosing to make a product, we first pick our target. I want this to address, I'm just going to say wrinkles. I want this to test like, and there's so many different ways I could go to address wrinkles. So I want to look at what pathways do I want to influence within the body to be able to empower the body to naturally be able to have firmer skin and produce its own collagen. And there's hundreds of different ingredients that I could consider. And that's where the Clean Promise comes in. With the Clean Promise, up until, let's see, we created that. It was almost been 4 years because it was right when I started that we decided to put that together. It created lists both for our nutritional supplements and for our cosmetics of what we would not put in there. Because for me, what clean is transparency. It's not necessarily all natural or all organic. It's allowing people to know exactly what is in your product so they can make a choice. Because I think that's the most important thing is being informed. And when things are sneaky or you feel like they're trying to like stuff something under, you lose that trust, and trust is everything within our industry. And so what we did with our product promise is we created those lists, and they're very extensive. Part of them we're looking at other lists across the industry. Part of them we're looking at what I've seen in my career. So I spent decade on the bench making cosmetic products and working for like putting them in different stores and everything. So I knew all of their lists. I had scientists on my team that have done supplements for decades, and they knew kind of what scientifically was sound and valid and safe. But then also, we had a lot of conversations and a lot of conversations with consultants because that was very important to me because not only is clean just about ingredients that are making sure there aren't ingredients in there that are unsafe or from a bad source. It's also ensuring that there are no stumbling blocks within our formula that would prevent people from using them. So there have been some ingredients that we've chosen to put on our clean list, like the black list, that I believe are 100% safe and fine. But some people have concerns with them, and it would be a stumbling block to them picking up our product. And so for me, it's not having arguments back and forth about an ingredient. It's about how can I allow people to be able, like the most people, to be able to experience our products? And I think that's where the human element comes in because it's incredibly prideful to come in and be like, well, you're just wrong. And here's the evidence, this, and this. At the end of the day, what do we want? We want people, their lives, both financially and health, to be transformed. And so I want to do everything I can to create a product that'll work for the most people and that the most people will use. So you'll see some ingredients on there that if you ask me about them, I'd be like, it's completely fine. But this was an ingredient that if we put it in there, it's a distraction and there are other alternatives. And what I love about our industry is that there are always new chemistries coming out, new ways to look at to do things. And so if you're so stuck in the past of how we've always done things, you miss out on so much of the innovation. And so that was one of the things when we looked at our Axio with our clean promise. So the big carrier, because for any sort of drink, you can't just put botanicals in a sachet and just put them in water. They won't go in. You need to have something that'll help them go into water because people need to be able to drink them. But the best one at the time when they were making it was maltodextrin. But as time went on, more and more was learned about maltodextrin. More and more was learned and researched as far as alternatives. And that's where the reformulation came in. We were able to identify a resistant tapioca starch that would perform just as well as maltodextrin, but was actually beneficial for the gut. It acts as a resistant fiber that resists digestion, and it goes all the way down to the colon where it feeds good bacteria and helps with your gut. So not only are you getting a product with Axio that's brain food, that's helping to connect those produce more neurotransmitters and make those connections, but you're even the excipient. So even the side ingredients you're putting in there to help it go into water are giving you benefit. And that's what's beautiful about more and more chemistries that are being developed are that they're coming from natural sources, they're dual purpose, and they're performing just as well or better than traditional alternatives. Because what we don't want to do is change a formula and now suddenly it's just not performing well. The ingredients aren't as bioavailable. It's not going into water as well. The taste is disgusting and no one will use it. That's the bad side of product development if you're just trying to change out ingredients. You have to kind of wait for some of those natural chemistries and those solutions to be created. And so when they are, we always want to be on the cutting edge of identifying them and putting them in our formulas, testing them thoroughly. And one of the things we wanted to ensure with Axio is that when we switched out the maltodextrin for this tapioca dextrin, that the performance would be the same from the way it mixed in. We tested that. The way it tasted, we wanted to make sure that the experience would be seamless, but that you'd be getting all these benefits kind of behind the scenes. And Axio has been the big one. But what we've made as far as our clean promise is that by 2030, we'll have touched all of our formulas and they will be compliant with that list. Like Axio was one of those big ones, but there are still others coming. And actually, we have probably 7 or 8 clean projects in the work currently for different formulas that'll be coming out later on this year. So it's not something that we're just saying because we did Axio, pat ourselves on the backs, we're good. We're also looking at some of like the rest of the portfolio as well. And by setting those standards for ourselves, we are able to now, as we move forward with formulations, say, we're not going to use these ingredients even going forward so that by 2030, we'll have a clean portfolio. And so I think going to some of the other things that we hear about, I just saw a question in there about fragrances. And I think that's something that's very important with fragrances is there's some people that have sensitive skin and want to have nothing to do with the fragrance. And I think that's why you always need to have fragrance-free options. And that's something we have a few that are within the portfolio that are fragrance-free, the True Lift and the True Renew. But there are a few that do have fragrances. And that kind of goes down to aesthetics and people's like how they are able to enjoy the formula. And some people like they say they would like fragrance free, but when they actually smell the base of these formulas, maybe not as much. Some would love it, some would not. And so we want to have options. But what we do when we choose a fragrance is that we are very careful about how we source the fragrance. So just as how when you are taking and using our products, you have to have trust in us. we have to do the same sort of vetting with all of our raw material suppliers, both on the ingestible and on the topical side. We have to get to know them as a company. We have to hear their policies. We get extensive documentation on every single one of our ingredients. I have one person on my team who literally just does documentation because every ingredient has about 15 pieces of documentation that comes to it. We want to know everything, every source ingredient, everything that happens as it's being processed. We want to know every potential solvent that's touched it. So we want to be like, oh, was water used for this? Was alcohol used for this? However, the product got to its final state, we want to understand that. We want to understand all of the testing that's been done on the safety side. We specifically look to Europe for a lot of standards for safety and fragrances and make sure that we're not including any fragrance allergens that could be concerns. And I think other countries besides the US is good in some things, but a lot of other countries are much better in ingredient safety. They demand much more from their ingredients. The beauty of a global company is that we have to meet all of those standards. And so we pick the hardest, the harshest, the best for you standard and use that as our standard because I don't want to have a US formula that's using the bad, crappy fragrance and then use the nice one that we feel very comfortable with for Europe. I mean, that's not like that's not ethical. That's not who we are. That's stupid business, to be honest. We want to make a formula that's going to work globally and be able to meet all of those standards. Now, with fragrances specifically, there are some people that you ask, like, why don't we use essential oils or something that comes naturally from a plant directly? And some people, essential oils work wonderfully for. But what also comes with essential oils are actually natural allergens. And so people tend to react more to topical. Now, there are some that have worked well for people, so I'm not bashing essential oils at all. There are cases where we would use them as well, but they do tend to contain allergens that could cause issues. And so if you go with a more synthetic fragrance, you are able to mitigate those and ensure that even those with sensitive skin shouldn't have concerns. And so that's when we go to our product, and when we go to our product promise, we don't say that we're 100% organic or 100% natural. We say we use those whenever we can, which is the majority of the time, but we have a place in our portfolio for synthetic ingredients as long as they're made the right way. And we make sure we ask the right questions. And that's like being in this industry a really long time, we know the right questions to ask and we know the companies, like we've built those relationships and we know who we will trust. Let me pull up. I see a few questions and I'm not catching all of them as they're popping up.
I'll try to catch them too.
Yes. So with synthetic fragrances, a lot of what can cause hormonal disruption are some of those allergens and specific compounds found within them. As research has been done, they will actually remove those compounds. That's some of the modifications that are happening to synthetic fragrances as they're created to make them safer. And we're also very cautious about how much we put in there. We're no Bath and Body Works. They have like 3 to 4 to 5% of fragrance that will cause issues. That will definitely start messing with some things. We use the very least we can, 0.1, 0.15%, very low amounts. We're not trying to be a Bath and Body Works. We're just trying to give a little bit of fragrance so there's a good experience and cover up any of we call them base odors, the odors from the ingredients that would keep people from using the formula. So it's a nice kind of happy medium. It's using very small amounts. It's using very safe fragrances from companies that have clear reputations that we trust from years of experience. And when we can, not using them. And because to be fair, I'm one of those ones that has incredibly sensitive skin. And so I test every single product on myself. I'm a guinea pig for all of them.
Oh,
At my previous company, I used to, they had a little clinical lab where they would do some safety tests and I'd be the one that they called in for everything. Yeah, because they're like, if anything will happen, weird will happen, it'll happen to Lisa. And so I use that as my, I'm a guinea pig early on. But yeah, that's how we kind of handle like fragrances, low amounts, good sources, no fragrance allergens. And so if they are completely afraid of fragrance, there are the options without, and we can stick to those. We can also, in the future, there may be more opportunities to look at other options where we can have maybe a version that's fragrance free. We have a very basic skincare line for now, but that means we have a lot of room to grow. And so not put, I don't want to shut the door that we're not going to have new launches without fragrances. I think, to be honest, that's the question I always ask when we launch something is like, is this one that needs it, or is this one that we could potentially get away from it? So, seeing another question specifically about stevia and Axio. And yes, there are different types of stevia that are good and bad. And that comes to, once again, how they're produced. A lot of people, a lot of the stevia you buy at like the grocery store is mixed with other things that are cheaper, like erythritol and other things that do not have the safety profile of a pure stevia. Now, when we are using stevia, we are using pure stevia leaf extract. There is nothing cut with it. There are no other excipients. It is exactly that. So it is expensive. And so as a result, we use only what we have to get the sweetness that we need because we work with natural botanicals. And if you don't have any sweetness in there, they're disgusting and you'd have to chug them down. And we want to make it a good experience. So we add just enough. We're actually becoming very good at looking at alternatives because there are a few markets that we are in, specifically Europe and Mexico. Oh, I'm never going to disown it. I like all the questions, so you're not going to get in trouble. I've been in this industry so long, and if I did not like questions or these hard
Oh,
conversations and love them, I would not be in this industry. So you
and
guys are completely
Aaron
fine.
is
Don't even worry.
Aaron is the one who nerds out over you the most. The one with all the questions is the one that's like
Oh,
all googly eyed.
no, I love them. So don't worry whatsoever. I don't get off these
Awesome.
calls and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I hate these people." I'm always I
You
end up
did.
actually leave and I'm so excited about what you guys are doing.
That's how
But
I feel about the industry questions when people are like, is it a pyramid scheme? Is it this? Is that like, I'm like, bring them. I want to
bring them
answer all
all, bring
these
them
questions
all, bring them all.
100%.
But looking, so once again, the beauty of being a global company is that we have a couple of markets where the stevia levels allowed in products are really low, specifically Mexico and Europe. And that's one of the reasons actually we haven't had Axio in those markets is because we haven't had solutions on how to sweeten, because we don't want to use sugar, because we don't want to kind of feed into inflammation. We don't want to use artificial sweeteners at all. That's off the table. They can't use anything like monk fruit or some of the other alternatives used within the US, not because of a safety issue. I just want to be really clear with that. It's because Europe and some of these other markets, it takes decades for them to recognize new ingredients. So while they are very thorough in their safety reviews, it prevents us from using more cutting edge technology because they haven't had that chance to look at them. And so we have a much lower, but one of my chemists is fantastic. His name is Rob, and he is fantastic at flavor work. And he's working right now on a solution for Axio in Europe and Mexico, super early stages on. But we're learning how to use more natural fruit juices and other, because some of the things we learned from MB Enhance was how to sweeten with things that are not even natural sweetener. Well, they're natural sweeteners, but they're not like a stevia or something, but from like a fruit. Apple juice powder is something that we're really interested in because it imparts a lot of sweetness. And you can use a little bit of it, and it gives other benefits as well because you tend to get some of the roughage that comes from apples as well. So once again, a multi-purpose use ingredient. And so he's been gathering ingredients to start playing around with that, and I'm really excited. I think one thing you need to take from this whole discussion is that we're never done identifying the best solution. As science continues, as research continues, as ingredient development continues, there's always going to be something better. And I think what makes us good is if we are always on the lookout for that and we are always willing to change if we find something better. It goes back to that stubbornness earlier. If we're stubborn and we're like, we have the best thing ever and we just want to die on a hill of that, that's against all science.
I
You
love
always you need to be open. You need to be open. And so we pride ourselves in being really open to what we find available, like the tapioca, like other flow agents that come from more natural sources. We keep identifying also new vendors too to make sure that we're always working with the best. One of my team members is in India, was in India last week going to a trade show to identify more additional natural ingredient suppliers. So we're not dependent even on one market. So we're not dependent on just China or the US or Europe. We'd have India as well. And they have quite a few interesting botanicals that are not available here that we want to get in our formulas as well. So we want to use some of those traditional medicines. And so it's all about making sure that we're always curious um, about it. And kind of going back, I see someone has a question about the stevia. They were putting kids to bed. Completely fair. With the stevia is that we use the pure stevia leaf. Very clean. Thank you, Erin. Yeah. And all good thing with this recording is you can go back and listen to anything
Yes.
as well.
I
So
saw a question from Janet about the added caffeine in the Axio.
yes. So multiple different formulas of ours use different types of caffeine. Some are from natural sources. What's hard about the natural sources is that they can be hard to standardize and ensure you get a certain amount of caffeine. They tend to be really expensive and you have to use a lot of the natural ingredient to get the level of caffeine you need. So then you end up having to eliminate other ingredients. So it becomes kind of a push and pull a little bit. And so specifically with Axio, we did choose to use a synthetic caffeine for that. But with that one, once again, you have caffeines everywhere that are being sold. We have the pick of the litter of what we want to pick, so we can be incredibly particular about which one we look at. So once again, we look at a company that we trust, a company that's very transparent with their processing. We can make sure it's as minimally processed as possible and make sure it's really safe and unadulterated. Because for me, it's about making sure that there's not high heavy metals, that there's not any sort of solvents in there that are mucking things up. It's as clean as it can possibly be. So with our caffeine source, it is specifically for Axio it is a synthetic source, but it is one that we feel confident about because we've put in the time with it. Now, if you look at the new Axio X, when Love Biome formulated that, they did choose a natural source of caffeine with that. And so that's partially why that formula is only 15, being really like open and honest with you guys. That's why it's 15 sachets, because we want to make sure it's an expensive formula because of that, because of how much they have to use to get the caffeine level. And so it makes it a little bit more cost prohibitive. And so it's more of a situational product, which is completely fine. There's a place for that as well, and it works wonderfully. But for something we want you guys to be able to use every day, we want to balance using the best ingredients, safe ingredients, and making sure that you guys at the end of the day can afford the products and be able to incorporate them into your lives. And so that's where the quality standards come in. So every single ingredient that we bring into our formulas, they're all tested for, they have a C of A, so certificate of analysis, multiple things that are tested. We look at heavy metals, we look at micro, every single lot of every ingredient. If anything doesn't meet our standards, and we have specs for all of them, rejected, we get another lot. We don't use anything we don't justify. That's not something we do. It meets spec. Then when the ingredients are put together into a final blend, same thing. We have very strict standards. That's actually something we ran into when we acquired Love Biome, is that they didn't have as strict of standards. Their formulas were clean, which was great, but they just didn't know better. And so then when we put ours to it, their manufacturer's like, oh, like, and we're like, they're good ingredients. It'll be fine. And they've been passing. It's completely fine. But
Yeah.
we're really strict in comparison to a lot of people. We ensure that we want things to be non-detectable if they're like heavy metals. Some natural ingredients are going to have a little bit more heavy metals. That's just normal. But we try to keep everything below a certain threshold. And if a batch doesn't pass, we throw it out. That's just how our quality works. There's not reworking, there's not sneaking it out there. It's very much like it has to pass or it doesn't work.
Because I
Now,
remember hearing something even about the maltodextrin in the spray that they use for the capsules in NRF2. And many times I've heard like they don't even have to put it on the description on the bottle. It's just something that they want to fully disclose.
yes, and we very much don't have to. And something we're looking at once again as we go into this clean journey is there something else we could put to be able to do that? Now, something like I'm going to talk about D3 for a second. So when we had PEG in the coating and like no one wanted PEG. That formula had already been done by the time I came. It launched. People were not happy about it. So we started looking for alternative coatings to use for the tablet for D3. And we found one that was more natural, more clean. We were really happy. We started testing it. Capsules were breaking. I mean, the tablets are breaking. Quality horrible. So that's when we decided to put it in a capsule. So when you see D3 in a capsule, that's why. Because we wanted to go away from that coating. And the best choice to be able to do that was putting it in a capsule and still give you guys that experience. And so that's why if you see that happening, you know why. I see a question about natural flavors, and I want to dig into that one because I know that is like such a buzzword for you can just throw anything in there. And We don't. So I want you to be very, be very clear about that. And that's actually probably a question I get all the time. I just provided a list to, it was, I think, someone on product questions and someone who texted me about where each of the flavors, like what was the natural source of every single component of each of our flavors and Axio, MB, all of those guys, because we're super transparent about them. And they actually are natural flavors. So when we say that something is a lemonade, there's lemons in there. But you also might see, I'm just going to, this is probably not the exact thing that's in there, but as an example, there might be coconut in there to make it taste even more lemonade-y. Or you might see another natural ingredient. We're not throwing in synthetics to make it taste like a lemonade. We're using our palette of natural ingredients to be able to do that. And so that's kind of where we are with natural flavors. We're not sneaking in synthetics. We know we get disclosed all the ingredients that are within our flavors, and we make sure that we are happy with them before we put them in our products. We have a flavor house called Flavor Insights that we absolutely adore. They're a small company. They're super responsive, and they're also just super ethical. And they know our standards. We trust them because they've been doing our flavors for years, and we always go to them first because we have that relationship with them. And part of it's been just having really blunt conversations with them. And because we ask the questions and we're like, we need the exact flow chart of how this is made. What's the starting material? Is it this chemical or is it this fruit or vegetable or whatever it is? And it's the same way with our natural colorants as well. We pull them from, it's from a beet or it's from whatever else, but it's from a natural vegetable source. And so with the citric acid one, that's one that we need to do better in, really honest. Right now, the majority of the citric acid is from, or at least some of them are from a mold source. Some are from a tapioca source. And so we're working on switching those over as well. So that was something we identified. Actually, it's because someone asked us a question and we're like, we had not even thought about that because it was just a citric acid that we were using and we dug deeper. And so we've been looking at how do we switch that out as we continue forward with production. And so something we're working to do better, but it's because someone asked a question like you did. It sparked it up. So that's why I say like I completely mean it. I love when you guys ask these questions because I mean, we're not perfect. We're not going to ask all the right questions all the time, but when we have people who really care and who ask the right questions, we don't let that go to a deaf ear. We will do the research and we will find something. And if there's a solution that's better, we'll move to it. And this is a case where we've identified that there is a source that's better. And I was talking to Christine actually just the other day. I think this came up maybe 2 weeks ago. Um, where we were like, we're going to move to something better. We do have a list of that, which ones have that source. So I can make sure that that gets provided because someone asked that question and we actually dug in to show which ones we knew for certain were the tapioca source because someone actually was just allergic to that citric acid that would come from the mold source. And so we dug in because we wanted them to be completely comfortable with what they were taking. It wasn't even because they were worried about the sourcing. They just were worried about their allergy. And so we have a list of which ones use the tapioca. So I'll do it that way, the ones I can confirm. And then as we continue to roll out other ones, we can communicate it. Let's see. You have a customer that is questioning the ingredients like natural flavors. Um, One of the things you can always do if you're getting customer questions and they're saying, I want to know this, that's what the product questions email's for. We get those questions all the time. Please use it and we'll be transparent. I've given the team permission to give all the information out. We don't have anything to hide on that. So if ever you get a question, you're like, I just honestly don't know the answer, please put it on there. Thinking of the GLP-1, the answer is yes. We are looking to use a methylated form of folate in there. So we have some inventory right now that we're working through, but the next batch, we already have a formula on paper that has moved to it. And that's one of those things, once again,
Oh,
we kind of learned from that. And so we're putting that in there. And so it's something that was really, I mean, there's a few other minor things we're doing at the same time, but that one was really important to me. And as we were looking at the formulas for Love Biome, we saw that they had a lot of B vitamins. That was a question that we then knew to ask. And so when I was doing I don't know if you've ever heard the story of me looking at the Love Biome formulas, but I had a master spreadsheet because I'm a big nerd. And so I had everything out there. And one of the things I specifically had a column for was methylated B vitamins. And I'm like, if I have to go in and reformulate these, I don't want to. I was like, they need to come in ready to meet our standards moving forward. And they were using methylated B9 and B12. And I'm like, beautiful. And that was specifically for XCOX. Some of the other ones don't have B vitamins. And I think something important to know with B vitamins is that every one of them doesn't need to be methylated. Some need to be phosphorylated. Whenever something needs to be done to a vitamin B, like or vitamin B, we're looking at how can we get that form to make it easier to be able for the body to be able to use it. And so specifically with the MTHFR, if you have that, then folic acid, especially if you have a lot of folic acid, can accumulate within your body. Now, with the amount that we had in MB Enhance, it's just going to pass through, but you're not getting the benefit from that. And that's where I don't want to just not do harm. I want to ensure we're doing benefit. So I wasn't concerned about a safety issue of the folic acid. I was concerned that it wasn't giving the benefit that we were promising. And that's why I'm looking at moving to that other form. And the good thing about using a methylated form is that even if you don't have that gene mutation, you can still benefit from having the methylated form. So it's not like the other people who take the product now, it's just passing through. They can use that form as well. It actually makes it a little easier on their body because they don't have to go through that step of methylation. So yes, that is something that we are looking at. I don't know the exact timing yet. It's going to depend on how we roll through inventory, but it already exists on paper. We've done some initial work, and then that will definitely be clear because that's been a big question in the field. When that happens, it'll be definitely very front and center, and we'll talk through it. Probably on like an opening of the month call or something where we have a big presence of everyone, so it's very clear and you can hear it just straight from our mouths.
I
So,
love all of these. I have a question just for myself
yeah.
that popped up. What are the capsules like for the D3? What are those made of?
So specifically, they're vegetarian capsules. So
Okay.
they're from a vegetable source. So
I
specifically,
I
yeah.
just remembered. I remember years ago I had someone, I don't know if you guys have ever had someone ask you like, why did they put it in plastic?
And we're like,
I was like,
no.
I'm sure it's not. That's right. I love that.
So there, I see a question about why isn't Nerf 2 in a capsule, but Nerf 1 and NAD is. Now, Nerf 2 could be in a capsule. It could completely be in there. But when they were first developing it, I think that was the way that they thought it would be most bioavailable at the time based on the technologies there were, and they moved forward with it. And so honestly, as we look for like if we do ever do any changes to Nerf 2 to like remove a maltodextrin coating or whatnot, and we determine that a tablet's not the right format for us to be more clean, we can look at a capsule. I would have no concern about that. And so potentially, and we would going to the question of wouldn't it be even more bioavailable? And that's potential, but we would want to look at that and do the study to ensure, because what we don't want to do is switch and then we cause it not to be as efficacious. And it very likely could, but you want to have the data to be able to do that. The more you get to know me, I'm a really data-driven person. I'm very feelingsy in real life, but when I make decisions, they're not feelings decisions. They're very data-driven. Even though there's some feelings that go into it because there's the people on the other end of it. So the people of it come in, but at the end of the day, we look at like what will work the most and how will we be able to support our claims and how can we help people. So yeah, so something potentially that if the tablet doesn't work with some of the natural pieces, we could potentially look at, and then we do the comparison because we know people would ask the question, does it work as well, especially since it's changed so many lives. So there's always a hesitation when things change, and we always want to come prepared to answer any questions and concerns because yeah, it's something that they've either people have built their businesses off of, or it's completely transformed their health or their mother's health or their friend's health. And we want to take that really seriously. And so I think what's important for you guys to know is there's always questions. It's a business of, well, how do we like, can we make this cheaper? Can we do this? Can we do this? And what my job is to ensure that whatever choice is made, it's the choice that supports the consumer. It supports you guys at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, I have to put my name on it, and I'm the one who goes up on stage or goes on these calls. And I am horrible at lying. The more you get to know me, I show every emotion on this face. And that's partially why it took me a while to say yes to LifeVantage, because I had to dig in and make sure that I felt comfortable with LifeVantage, because I knew with the role I was going to have to be talking to everyone. And I was like, if their stuff is horrible, like everyone will know, and I'll last like 2 weeks. Thankfully, that was not the case. But I always want to make sure that when I have these conversations with you guys, that I can be 100% honest, because I mean, that's key
Yes.
in my values. And I have to make sure that I can back that up. And I don't want, even if something's like 10 cents cheaper, if it's not going to provide the same benefit, or it's from a source that's questionable, then I don't even want to touch that. Because I think part of sourcing is not only just natural, is it from an ethical source? Because there's so many cheap sources nowadays that come from like child labor or from horrible work conditions overseas. And that's just not okay. Like, I can't go to sleep at night with that. I have 3 girls, and no, it's not okay. It's not okay to save 3 cents on something. So that's important as well. So going back to the B vitamins and what it means that they're methylated. So when you have just a pure B vitamin, for your body to be able to use it, it has to add what's called a methyl group to it so that it can be used. And if it doesn't, then the body does not recognize it and it just kind of passes through. And so your body has a process where it methylates or puts this methyl group on the B vitamin so it can be used. But some people that have the gene mutation don't have that process occurring. And so they just have this ingredient that they're not being able to process. And if there's too much of it, it accumulates or it just passes through if it's in small amounts. And so and more people are discovering that they have this mutation. It was not as much a big thing in the past, and that's probably a big thing about our food quality in the world that we live in, is that it's definitely influencing our health, and we have to be adaptive to that. And so by putting a methyl group on it or having a methylated B vitamin, we're taking that work away from the body and allowing it just to be used as is. So it ends up being more bioavailable as a result. So I see another question about P84. So with P84, when we talk about products, if it has to be taken on an empty stomach or there's a very specific like time of day, we're going to be really clear with it. And P84 is not one that we are very prescriptive with. We say morning because that's an easy time to get it in. It does not need to be taken about, or it does not need to be taken on an empty stomach. It can be taken with food as well. Because some people, it's always going to be work better for them to take supplements or product on with food in their stomachs. They're just more sensitive, and that's completely fine. Or other people, it works better for them to take it on an empty stomach. There's no reason why you would have to do either with this particular product. Know that if there ever is products like MB Core, any of those products where it has to be at a certain time, we'll be very clear and upfront about those expectations on the package and in our trainings so that you're aware. So if we don't say, like, you can trust what's on the bottle, so they can use it when they can get it in their bodies. That'll be completely fine. Maltodextrin and collagen. So there is not a specific like added maltodextrin to collagen. So it's not like an ingredient we add in as a flow ingredient. It is an ingredient, it is attached to some of the botanicals that are within collagen. And so they're very small trace amounts, but it still is in there, which once again goes to that we tend to disclose quite a bit of what's in our formulas. So one of the things we've been looking at is how do we find versions of these botanicals that don't have maltodextrin as a carrier? And thankfully, once again, the evolving world, as more people are asking those questions, more sources are becoming available and they're becoming more competitive. And so more options are becoming open to us. What makes it really tricky is when we use like a very specific ingredient that belongs to one company that has a lot of studies on it in our product, and it contains like a malto as a carrier. it then comes down to them to whether they'll be willing to change it. And so that's where sometimes you get yourself into a little bit of a tricky situation because then it comes down to when do they feel like they need to remove the malto? They need to have pressure from multiple customers. It's actually why when we've been moving to our new formulations, instead of using ingredients with studies already performed on them, we've been doing our own research from scratch because then we have complete control over every single ingredient. And if we want to move to a form that's like doesn't have malto in it, that has a tapioca in it, we can do that because we have the research to support that. And so that's been kind of great. Everything since I've been here, because collagen was right before me, we've been able to take that approach to it, which is what's allowed a lot of them to be cleaner. But we are looking at how we can take some next steps with collagen. We're even looking at, like right now, we did have to move to a synthetic preservative in there to ensure that it could maintain its shelf life because it's a beverage, it's ready to drink. It has water, it has apple juice, it has all the food that bugs love. But we've done some really cool experiments with some natural preservatives that are from different plants that are performing really well. And so it's giving me a lot of hope that we'll be able to move to that in the formula. So if we move to that in the formula, we're going to touch everything in it and make it completely clean. So that was going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but we're slowly gathering the pieces to be able to do it, and we'll do it when we feel better. Right now, we're using potassium sorbate, which we feel completely at low levels, completely fine about, but once again, hurdle to some people. So we're looking, how can we continue to do better? And we found a really cool, actually, we found multiple preservatives that work. And I think what we're going to land on is probably a combination of two that focus on some that are more mold and yeast focused and some that are more gram positive and negative bacteria. Because the last thing I want to do is get people really excited about a product, it's really working, and then suddenly they get a bottle that is like bad and they get sick from it. That's once again, that's how you lose trust in a competitor. I've seen it happen in my first job. Tylenol had a pallet that had some sort of mold in it and it got into their Tylenol and they were off the shelf for months. Now they've slowly built up their reputation again in the over-the-counter space. For a long time, all their competitors ran in because they didn't have an adulterated product and it really takes a hit of trust. And so micros probably, besides just efficacy and like ethical sourcing, micro is one of the things I take most seriously, especially with like background in biology. Things are iffy, it's a no for me. Like you never know what people are going to do with products, and I want to make sure that I kind of disaster proof it so that no one will ever have a bad experience with it. So more to come on that, but a lot of positive work moving forward with that to identify natural preservatives that really work with the body and come from these fruit and vegetable sources, which is nice.
Lisa, when we have a recording from years ago, someone talking about the maltodextrin and the collagen, and then she was talking about exactly what you said. It's not an added maltodextrin, but it's a byproduct of the drying process of the fruit.
Mhm.
And so does that mean it's not even a corn derivative?
So whatever malto they use in the drying process, it can be whatever source is what it is. So
Yeah.
some of them are corn, some of them are tapioca. So it kind of varies depending on what they use. So it's why we tend to not even, we just want to stay completely away from maltodextrin so that
Yeah.
we don't have, there's not even a concern. Because you never end up, with the way we have to do labeling, we can't identify the source of it. That's
Yeah.
not FDA compliant. And so I'd just like to move away from it completely where we can to not even have that question or doubt come up. Once again, removing the
I
harm.
because I think what the one, and I don't remember her name, but she had blonde hair and she was talking about it not even being corn derivative, but being like just even a byproduct of the drying process. And that drying thing was labeled maltodextrin.
Well, and so I think I probably know who it was. I think it was someone on the marketing team. So just being someone from product and how ingredients work is that you have an extract, a natural extract, like we'll say blueberry in this case.
Yeah.
So you go through, you use water to extract all the goodness from the blueberry so that you concentrate it down, you put it in your product. What happens is you end up with something like a sticky mess. And so to be able to actually mix it into a product, you need to have something that it's mixed with to help it to flow. And so you can pick different things. And malto has been the go-to for years and years because it's cheap and it's easy, but that's changing. And so that's the case now, but that's not going to be the case going forward. Now, going to amounts, because dosage matters, the amount of maltodextrin in collagen incredibly low in comparison to what an Axio was, which is why Axio was more of a focus for me because you're at grams amount of maltodextrin in Axio, while you're in micrograms, maybe a milligram of like maltodextrin in collagen. So much bigger issue for Axio, one that we're getting to with collagen. But once again, like I said, there's multiple things we want to tackle with that formula. But yeah, it's not a byproduct from the fruit itself. It is something they're adding to make it so it can flow, being really transparent because sticky extracts don't go into things. But we're going forward, we're looking for the sources where they pick like the more natural flow agents for them. And we'll look at like going back to the collagen to do the same thing for it. So more to come, which will be great. And we'll be definitely, as we get there, we'll be shouting that one from from the rooftops as well, because that'll be a really big accomplishment for us as well as we're getting through all these, because it's a lot of work for the team, but it's the right
Yes.
kind of work to do to be able to maintain like loyalty with customers and trust and always, once again, incorporating those cutting edge technologies. And as you can do better, you do better.
I also just love the whole concept of nutrigenomics and what these products are doing and the synergy behind it. And just, what, for example, NRF2 is doing in the body. And I was just listening to the podcast because we have a long road trip. So we've been listening to the LifeVantage podcast, and you guys, they're fascinating. And Lisa has been talking about, the synergy and not the healthy glow stack, the health
Healthy edge.
stack. And it is phenomenal how many genes it's activating and what they're seeing it do. It's nothing short of profound. And that's what sets us apart. I was listening on that podcast because I do presentations all the time on activation versus supplementation.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the 5 ingredients in Protandim NRF2, how can you explain to me how to say it better when we say, I will say, oh, it's the micro dosages of the herbs in a synergy that unlocks the pathway. But then on the call, and then I had remembered it being said like that before, they said it was the active.
Oh, the bioactive components of it. So
Yes, can you explain that to us?
yes. So, and this goes for all of our different products when we put together blends. So first you start with the individual raw materials, and there's a lot of different grades you can get of raw material. You can get one that's just a powder. So I could have a blueberry powder. It's literally just like crushed blueberries. You get it all, but there's no standardization. You can get like a juice powder that's more of the juice, not really any active components. It's more, you're getting more of the sweetness from it and being able to use that. And then there's extracts. And with extracts, you actually process it. Now, don't take the word process too much. It's like using some water to be able to concentrate down the ingredient to its active components. And these are the bioactive components. And that's what makes the blueberry so powerful. And so if you were to take a blueberry powder and compare it to a blueberry extract and you test them, their genomic activity, your extract is going to perform much stronger on certain areas because it's been specifically standardized to do something. And so with Protandim NRF2, it's not only about what the ingredients are, it's what they're standardized to. So each of them has their own standardization, and every lot we get in of those ingredients has to meet those standards to be able to be used in the product. So we're having not only specific ingredients, specific standardized ingredients, and then it's the right ratio. So the beauty of NRF2 is that you could take the same ingredients and do them in multiple different configurations, and some are much better than others. And that's why there were thousands of iterations with NRF2, and that's why there's hundreds to thousands of iterations with all of our formulas as well in vitro, so with cells, to determine what the correct ratio is. Because we look at what do the ingredients do individually, and yay, if they hit our targets, we move forward with them, but then we start putting them together. And there's 3 things that can happen when you put ingredients together. First, you get 1 + 1 = 2. So you get the benefit of the first plus the benefit of the second, and you get the same benefits. No, you like win-win, kind of win, but you're not getting anything more. You could just take them separately. It doesn't really give you any benefit. You can also see them interact negatively with each other. We also want to test to make sure that we're not putting wonderful things together and you put them together and you're getting much lower efficacy. Then the third thing is that you get the synergies, and that's where we sit with our products. We always ensure we have the efficacy. We call it the 1 + 1 = 4, 5, or 6. You're getting not only the benefits of each, you're getting the more. And that's what we saw with NRF2. So it's The right ingredients standardized to the right things in the right ratio is what makes Protandim NRF2 and all of our other activators so powerful. And so, going to Erin's questions, why can't you take them separately and get the same thing? Yes, we have very specific standardizations that we don't disclose even in like that's why we're very careful in how we talk about them. And we have specific sources that we protect really carefully. And also we ensure that they're in the right ratios. Because even a slightly different ratio would not be necessarily as effective. And that's why we went with a very specific standard. Now, it means when some people stack Nerf 2 or take multiple Nerf 2s, that maintains the same ratio. You're completely fine. Michelle Poe and I actually, we had a very long texting conversation about that this morning. She's one of my other BFFs via text where we talk about all the nerdy things.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. And so she was talking about, we were talking about stacking. The key with these are keeping the same ratio because that's what we've shown is efficacious.
I
So,
love that. And that's why someone who's dealing with something really bad, like I know we're not supposed to treat, cure, prevent, mitigate disease, but it has been our protocol for many years that maybe someone with cancer would take two Nerf 2 in the AM, two in the PM, and maybe two in the afternoon. And
yes, there are a lot of
that
people
reason.
that do. I think there's some people in Taiwan that take more than 10 a day, which I'm
I,
not recommending that to anybody, but there are some people that definitely have their own regimen that they've kind of put together based on what they've experienced. But we're always going to recommend just what's on the bottle. That's what we've tested. I don't want to talk about things that I don't have data on, but I'm not going to
yeah,
discount anyone's experience with it. So, yeah, Michelle was talking about how she's had people with like AM and PM dosages of Protandim for years and have seen wonderful results. And I think that's wonderful.
yeah,
I'm like, please keep doing that if that's working, but we always stick to what we have specific data on.
I love that. What
Looking at, I see another question about like Googling the milligrams. I'm assuming that's for NRF2. Um, I don't know if the Google, what's on Google is correct, but one thing you can always do if you want to know approximately what any of our ingredients are in our products, that's another case where you can use product questions. And we will always give you a range of every ingredient that you ask for in the product because we know that there's certain people who have sensitivities. There are people that need to be able to give that information to the doctor. Now, we won't give you like, it's 5 milligrams or whatever it is.
yeah.
That's proprietary, but we will always give you a range so that you can make informed decisions. So if there's someone is concerned about ashwagandha and pregnancy, if you want to know an exact amount to give them, just message product questions and we'll give a range.
But
And
then
so,
that's if I had a woman ask me that question and she was pregnant, I would just tell them, look, they're micro dosages and you're activating the nerve 2 pathway. And for me as a mom of 8, I'm like, I don't want to go a pregnancy without that pathway being activated. So it's not so much about the ingredient as much as it is that what are we trying to do here? We're not supplementing. And just seeing what activation has done for pregnant women
mhm.
and what all our products do for everyone, but also especially when you're pregnant. I'm like, take it, make that body work perfectly.
Yeah. And my goal is goes back to the transparency thing. Whatever information someone needs to feel comfortable, always glad to provide that so that they can make an informed decision. Because if they choose they want to be on it during a certain time, like that's at the end of the day, that's it's their body, it's their health, and this is another tool for them to decide. I want to make sure that they have everything in place to be able to feel confident about the decision they're going for. So yes, please use that resource. The product team answers it, but when it gets to like specific milligrams, they'll ping my team, and we're the ones. Usually I sit in a room with Dr. Christina Beer, and we answer all those questions together. We have a little date every single week to do that. So when you ask those, you hear directly from us, and so. Yeah, and with any ingredients and medications, I always want to ensure because I feel really, my sister is a doctor. She's a surgeon. She's brilliant. And I feel very passionately that whoever is managing your medical care, you should have a relationship where you can trust them and bring stuff up to them with it like this. If you're not able to have conversations where you can suggest an ingredient or like suggest ingredients or a product, and if they just like cut you off, then they're the wrong person for you to be seeing. You need to have that relationship. My sister, she's a general surgeon, but she also does breast cancer surgery. And what she does with her patients is whatever they will bring in, she will have a conversation with them about, and they will go into the deep. She will listen to them. She will, if it really is something that will interfere, she will say that. If it won't, then she will encourage. And she always sees it as complementary to everything else she's doing, which I thought was beautiful. We were literally just talking about that yesterday. And so I would really encourage, like, if you can, to be able to have that professional, medical professional in your life that you can have those conversations with. Otherwise, it's always going to be this fighting battle, and they're never going to thumbs up anything. And it needs to be someone that you trust. So if you have someone that has an open mind like that, and you bring the ingredients, like, they will respond genuinely. And if there are concerns, like you're on a specific, like one of the ones we tend to be very cautious around is if someone's had a transplant and they're on anti-rejection meds, we don't touch that. Like, anything that's slightly off, that changes in the body could cause your body to reject that. Their most important thing at that time is keeping that in and incorporating it into their body. Now, can we be a part of their healing journey a little bit later? 100%, and they need it. But we're going to be very careful. And a good physician should be able to give you the difference between like what will actually cause an issue and give you the right, but also allow you to have it when it makes sense. It's not a blanket no. If you're getting blanket no's, then you have the wrong person that doesn't want to spend the time talking with you, and you deserve much more as a part of your health journey. That's why I love hearing from my scientific advisory board members. They all see patients and they have relationships with all of them, and they're able to dig deep like this, and they care, and they incorporate all of these with other traditional medicines, and it all works together beautifully for these people because they care and they ask the right questions. And so my goal is that everyone eventually can get to that kind of relationship with their healthcare practitioner. Um, so we have not seen any contraindications with pregnancy and NRF2. We have to be very strict because of the FDA, and we can't say pregnant or nursing with any of our products. It's not just specific ones, but there are no ingredients in there that we are concerned with pregnancy.
I love that because that's just something that the FDA has regulated that is stamped on all natural products.
Well, yeah, any supplement. I mean, if you've not done studies specifically in pregnant women, which is such a vulnerable population to do studies in, that you just need to put that warning on there. So,
Yes.
yes, exactly. It's not ethical. So, they do. I just was passing a billboard in Utah the other day where they were talking about how they had done some clinical studies on something on pregnant women, and it just made me kind of shudder. I was just like, oh, like it's so much more than just one person that you're affecting in that way. And so you have to be so careful with how you do your studies. So,
Oh, so good.
And I like the idea of a prenatal because I think it goes to the two parts of our portfolio. We have the like true activators, all the clinical studies, and then we have all these beautiful support products that are just clean, well-sourced products that work that you just would add into your routine that supplement everything activation. And I think that's where a prenatal could come in. So I think the question comes, where does that fit? And one of the things we've been asking is like, how do we, both men and women's health, some of their very specific health needs, how could we potentially address that through products? So some questions that's been happening on our R&D side, like how could we come in and help support specific needs, including different stages of women's lives?
Oh my goodness. Lisa, I want to be so mindful of your time. I know you have to go out with your mom tonight, and it's
Yes, in a
already
little
been
bit.
an hour. Is I do you have to run?
I
Yeah.
probably do need to
Yes,
start getting
but
ready.
I feel like
I
we
also
let you
told
go.
my daughters that I'd watch them practice ballet before I left because they're going to be in a big production in a couple of months.
Oh my
My
gosh.
twins, my 15-year-olds, they dance on point for ballet, and then my youngest one also does dance. And so they're doing Alice in Wonderland, and my oldest twin is going to be Alice. So she's the star of the
Oh,
show, and it's going to be beautiful. And so I'm going there to give my mom feedback. So I'll do that.
I
But
want to park my RV in Utah and have my kids go to your homeschool for a while.
Hey, I mean, anytime you're welcome. And if there's more questions, Andrea, please gather them and send them to me. I know
I
we won't
will.
have time for all of them. I'm always glad to answer them. And if we ever want to have me come on again and answer some more questions, I'm always glad to do it as well. I was telling Andrea because she was in the office and she's like, "Oh yeah, my team loves you." And I was like, "Do you want me to just come on and we can have a conversation?" Because I do this
Oh,
all the time. It's once again the part of my job I love. So, um,
we
if
would
there's
love
more questions,
that.
If there's more questions, I'm always glad to hop on another time, or you can send them through Andrea and we can make sure they get answered. So
So
just
good.
know that this isn't the end of the conversation. There'll be more to come.
Well, we love that. Thank you for your time. I
You're
love
very
everything
welcome.
about you. I love how your mind works. Now I know that you were homeschooled and you homeschool your kids. So that's so cool. Oh, Lisa, have fun tonight, and just
Oh,
thanks
thank
again
you.
so much for being on the call with us all tonight. We just
Oh,
appreciate every minute you gave us tonight.
Yeah,
you
thank you.
are very welcome. Thank you for all the well thought out questions. I appreciate every single one of them. And I'm really excited to get to meet you. Hopefully, guys, hopefully in Vegas or wherever your next event is,
Yeah,
please come up. Remind me that you're on Andrea's team and let's have a conversation one on one. It's one of the things I absolutely adore. So let's have some chats in
let's
person.
do
That's
it.
my favorite.
Love you, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys so
Good night,
much, and I'll talk to you
everyone.
all soon.
Bye bye.
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 Oh, you guys, wasn't that fun? Maybe we should have a compilation of questions to ask her when she comes back on. But man, she was homeschooled. I think I was counting our team and I was like, most of us are either we're homeschooled or are homeschooling our kids or both on our call, which is really funny. I mean, what a tribute to homeschoolers. That's all I could think of tonight. Like they're gonna be just fine. You missed it, Mary. She was a homeschooler and she was doing her call from her homeschool classroom with her girls. So it was funny. Now I just want to go to Africa as a missionary. That's my oh, listen, I want to do a shout out. A lot of you, let me see. We don't have, I think all our Virginia people are tired. I don't see a lot of our Virginians on here, but we just did 2 weeks of presentations. And the biggest thing I'll do a takeaway is we create our own momentum. Like if you want to have momentum in your business, we create it. You don't wait for it to happen. And I want to really shout out Kaylee because she invited us to come up for 2 weeks. We lived with Kaylee for 2 weeks and she's very fun to live with. And
And we're still friends.
and we're still friends. Yeah. And we had a great time and we shared activation with so many people. And it's amazing. Some of the families they apologize like, oh, we only have 2 people here in the room tonight. And I said, no, that's amazing. That's the 2 people that need to be in the room tonight. And I really believe the longer we do this business, right, Andre, it's just like whoever is in the room is meant to be in the room and it's perfect. And you never know what's going to happen, even if it was just one person in that room hearing about activation for the first time. And I think the really cool thing with in Winnie's presentation, it was funny. There was just 3 people. One of them was a guest of someone, and at the end he's like saying how much he misses sales. He wants to get he misses the events. He's read personal development, and we were like, wait, you should join our team. So we're gonna go call him again, and I'm gonna probably harass him until he joins us. But he was a really great Black guy that was really into activation. And then I looked at Kaylee and I was like, Winnie might be that might be your strong leg. If this guy blows it up, you never know what's going to happen in an event. So just have an event, invite 2 people, one person to learn about it, have a coffee date. Don't be afraid. There's no bad way to say it. There's no perfect way to say it. It's just you being authentically you with your authentic heart, sharing a message that's very, very important for the world to hear. So yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to do your presentations, create the momentum in your business and have fun with it. And just so many people, I just saw the light bulbs go off in their head in the last 2 weeks. Like you can just see they were like, they leave the presentation like empowered and full of knowledge and equipped to deal with their health or just feeling confident in how to approach health. So that's always so cool. Let me just see. Yeah, way to go, Winnie. Yeah, it was funny. Oh, sorry, Mary. Did I not? I'm sorry. It was a throw off with the time. Did you catch? Well, I'll get the replay up. That was so good. And next week we're gonna have Blue Elam will be on the call. It'll be our first presidential guest speaker on the call that is not Carrie Dickey. So
Talking about building in depth.
yes, yeah, and that's gonna be that's something we're gonna really dive into. So we're excited to bring that to you guys. All right, everyone, have a good night. We love you guys so much. Good night, Amanda. I love your smile. Night, Sarah. Maybe they'll call that prenatal after you, Sarah. I'll put my vote in for you, okay?
Thanks. That'd be great.
Bye bye.
Good night.